All right. If I mentioned this guest's entire list of things he's done, I would be here for about 30 minutes. So I'll give the Reader's Digest version. You know him from his many television culinary appearances. You know him from his restaurant being included in the great series The Bear. You know him from his amazing restaurants, which have been mentioned in many, many places and given Michelin stars. James Beard Award winner. His new book, Fireproof, is one of the best autobiographies I've read in a long time. It's very inspirational. It's an amazing story. Mr. Chef Curtis Duffy, how are you, sir?
Thank you. I am fantastic. Excited to be here. Excited
Yeah,
to be on the platform. Thank you so
thank you
much for
so much.
inviting
Yeah,
me.
thanks for doing it, man. I appreciate that. All right,
Absolutely.
so we're doing Danzig, Twist of Cain, which is my favorite Danzig song. Thank you for that. When
Absolutely.
did you first come into contact and knowing who Glenn Danzig was? Was it Misfits, Sam Hain, Danzig? Where'd you start?
It all started with the Misfits in the late '70s for me. Um, you know, starting in my younger childhood years. Um, my dad had it playing somewhere. I don't know where. I just loved how fast it was and different that it was anything that I heard on the radio. And my father pointed out it was the Misfits, and it just stuck with me at that point.
Yeah, they're so influential. Obviously, the huge influence they obviously had on Metallica and so many other bands. And you're right, they were just such a different band because you had some metal components, some punk components, and at that point, not a lot of bands that kind of put all of those things together.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the speed of it was what hooked me, and of course, Glenn's voice was unique and different, and something that you didn't really hear a lot of. At least that's from my experience where I grew up. It wasn't what my dad usually listened to in the radio.
Yeah, very different. And that's the one thing that when we talk about Glenn Danzig, is the vocals are a little bit different. And some people, it's like whether it's King Diamond or Michael from Volbeat, like everybody has their takes on that. Obviously, it works for you. What did you love about his voice, or love still about his voice?
Well, I think for me it was the clarity in which he sang and the tonality of what he was getting across. It later on when he, formed Danzig album one, when it became, you know, so much like Jim Morrison, but a lot darker and evil, is really I really and started to enjoy his vocal side. For me, like the Misfits was about the speed and just the fast music. I love the short songs, but when he actually formed Danzig is when I really really started to appreciate it. And looking back now, I appreciate Misfits for so many different reasons.
Yeah, I think that there's a band that, when they came out, I mean, I was into it. I thought it was really cool and different. And, I was a big punk rock and metal guy. So I kind of like the merging of both of it. But as the years have gone on, I think that I have a much bigger appreciation for the Misfits, just about how important they were to the whole scene, and really, everything that Danzig has done after that as well.
Absolutely, yeah, I love it. I do love it.
Where did you first come into the metal world? Like, what was your gateway, or what did you first hear that you're like, oh, what is this?
Well, obviously, I think from my dad, ironically, because my dad was just a lover of music, as probably where I got my infatuation for music and the love of music too. It was rock and roll always in the background wherever we were playing or wherever it was in the house. It was always had his reel to reels moving, and there was just constant cycle of different bands from like Quiet Riot to AC/DC and Kiss, and it was just always in the part of my world.
What was your first metal concert?
Oh, that'd be embarrassing to say was first metal concert I think that my mother allowed me to go to would have been I think it was Cinderella,
Oh, that's a good one.
which also had Bullet Boys, Winger, and I want to say Bon Jovi maybe was on the bill, but I think Bon Jovi's a stretch. I think yeah, there was four on the bill. But
Yeah, fair enough. Well, Cinderella, they get a lot of blame or whatever for being a quote unquote hair metal band. But to me, Cinderella, I love that band. I thought they're just a really great blues based hard rock heavy metal band. I don't, even though they looked the part, I never put them in that whole hair metal thing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I really like Kiefer's voice and that raspiness that he has that he can bring to it. So very cool stuff.
Yeah, really good. And Fred Corey's still a friend of mine today, and he does all the music at Staple, well, whatever it's called, Crypto.com arena for the LA Kings now. So he
Oh,
does
fantastic.
that stuff is amazing. So I always have to ask this. We've had a lot of chefs on here, and I have a lot of friends who are chefs who are metalheads. Like, what is the equation? Why do you think there's so many people, chefs, and just people in the kitchen in general, in the restaurant industry, are so big metalheads, so many metalheads?
I think, I look at like the environments that some of the kitchens that I grew up, the environments, it tends to lead itself to a lot of misfits that are in the kitchen, a lot of, struggling actors, actresses. They're not really sure on what they want to do, how they want to do it, what's their outlook on life. And they seem to like fall into this category of, oh, just work in a kitchen is pretty consistent. There's always a job available in the kitchen, whether it's washing dishes or even further up the chain. But I think it's the environment is what breeds that. It is kind of chaotic. It's loud, it's bustling, cussing and swearing. And we're talking 30 years ago, cussing and swearing. And I think just the environment, and it just makes sense. I don't know. It makes sense.
Yeah, there's so many of them, and so many amazing chefs too, which I like to say that too. From you wouldn't think like, oh, here's this famous Michelin star restaurant and James Beard Award winner, but he's a metalhead, which I love all of that. Where did you get your passion for cooking? Like, where did that come from? Do you think?
Well, I think originally came from, being in home ec class and having that one teacher, Ruth Snyder, just having that nurturing environment. I wasn't receiving that at home. I stepped into home ec class because it was a mandatory class to take. So as a sixth grader, it wasn't something that a young boy wanted to do, was to, cook and sew and learn how to iron and do all those things. But when it was the cooking side of it, I was just very excited to be a part of it. I couldn't wait for I think maybe like a Tuesdays and Thursdays were the days that we would cook. And I was really excited about those days. Maybe it had to do with the fact that I wasn't eating well at home, and I knew at least I could get a full belly there. I don't know exactly where it all came from, but that's exactly where it stemmed from, was just being in home ec class and feeling like I was actually good at something.
Did you ever want to be a musician?
I did. Always wanted to be a musician. Always wanted to be, my dad was a drummer for many years. We always had a kit set up in one of the rooms, either the spare bedroom or the basement. And, it was one of those moments like Step Brothers, like, don't you dare touch my drum kit. And of course, my brother and I, and even my sister, any moment we got when they weren't home, we'd bang the shit out of them. And, my dad's nickname was Ringo. Oh, he loved the Beatles. And so I think I want to kind of follow in those footsteps. And, I eventually picked up a kit of my own. And this was probably late 99. And then my neighbors wanted to murder me as the noise that was constant. So I kind of gave that up. But always appreciated live music, always went to live shows, and always was just there for the music, but factuated, staring and watching the musicians, how the guitarists would move, the bassists would move, how they would all be in sync. That always was very fascinating to me.
Yeah, same here, because I can't play anything at all. So hence why I'm doing what I'm doing. So Danzig Twisted Cain, such a great song. And this was obviously the first Danzig record, which is the one that Rick Rubin produced. And this is also the first ever release on his Deaf American Recordings record label as well. And it was kind of interesting because, you have Danzig coming from Misfits, which is a really fast punk metal sort of thing. And then he got into the next band, Sam Hain, which is kind of a bit of the same sort of thing. But now
Yeah.
here's this Danzig record, which if you knew the earlier stuff, I wouldn't have predicted he would have kind of gone in a more, I don't want to say commercial direction, but a more, we'll say polished
Yeah.
version of him. When this record first came out, like what were your first impressions?
I don't know how I got turned on to it either. Because you imagine back in the day, that time I was in 87. I was in junior high, 6th or 7th grade, maybe even 8th grade. And you had to go to a record store, and the small town that I was in didn't exist. We didn't have a record store anywhere close by. Probably the closest one would have been 20 miles away to the next town or to the major city. So you had to physically go out and find that. And it was, yeah, maybe the magazines is what turned it on. I don't know. Maybe it was a magazine article that I had found, and maybe was reading through it and realized it was the same too, from Misfits. And I'm like, so maybe that's how I found out about it. Not really sure.
And then when you first listened to the record, when you first got your hands on it, were able to listen to it somehow, what were your thoughts then?
That's all I listened to. From that point on, that's all I was obsessed with the entire record, the entire album. It was to a point where I went to the store to find as many heavy metal magazines as I could to find Danzig in it. And the one that I did find, I would buy 2 copies of it, because at the time they'd have the fold out posters in the middle, and their Glenn was in one of those magazines. So I bought 2 of them because my stereo system had 2 speakers, and I was very meticulous that I wanted them to look exactly the same. So I taped the picture on one and taped the picture on the other, and that was kind of like the front of my stereo speakers was Danzig in the front.
I love that. That's amazing. Yeah, it's a doing research for this song, I did not I might have heard about it earlier, but I either forgot or just didn't realize that James Hetfield sang backup vocals on this song. And the reason nobody knew about it was because that was back in the days when the Metallica guys didn't want to, they weren't, not that they weren't allowed, but they didn't really do a lot of that stuff. And I think they just didn't want to get exploited or whatever. So I think the first time that any of them actually got a credit was when Lars Ulrich played drums on the Merciful Fate reunion record we did. He played the new version of Return of the Vampire. He gave him credit, but they've since now credit to Hetfield. And when I listened to it, I realized you can definitely distinctly hear James in the background. It's like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. Actually, another little tidbit for this song.
I did know that. I haven't since. I guess every time it comes on, I don't really think about it, and I'll have to go back and listen to it. I do know that bit because he also did, I think, another song on there as well.
He did another one. I forget which one that one was. Yeah. He did a couple on there, but which makes sense, of course. I mean, obviously, Hetfield is a massive influence by. I mean, I don't know how many Misfits and songs that Metallica's covered at this point, like 5 or 6 of them or something. Almost all of them, I think, which is kind of insane. So, real quickly to veer to the side a little bit, stay in music. You got to go to Back to the Beginning by the Black Sabbath, the final performance. What are your thoughts on that? How did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed every aspect of it. It was pretty special. It was, I was so adamant about getting tickets, and I was a little disappointed that I fell short of getting tickets to the show. And then my wife came back and surprised me for my 50th birthday. So I'd never had the opportunity to see Black Sabbath live, even with the different drummers that they had gone through the years. I was never able to see them live, and it has always been one of my all-time favorite bands growing up. And I always kicked myself in the ass for not making the time to go see them when I was able to, or when they were close by. And I said to myself, all 4 together, I must see the show. This is going to be the ultimate last time we'll ever see this come down. And then I became disappointed because I couldn't get tickets. So my wife came through and surprised me with amazing tickets to see that show. But we had an incredible time there. From the entire lineup of artists that were there supporting Ozzy and supporting Black Sabbath was just I don't think it's ever going to happen again, at least not in my lifetime, that something will come around like that. It was so special.
Yeah, it's a once in a lifetime thing. I didn't end up going. You know, I had a bunch of stuff going on. I didn't do it. I kind of wish I was there just for the experience, like because I know so many people that went and they all had kind of the similar response that you had. But it's got to be difficult for you in your job where you're working a million hours and doing a million things. You're going to have to miss a bunch of shows. It's got to be difficult to get out and see shows because I know that with a lot of other chefs, it's just I'll go, hey, this band's playing here. Let's go. Like, I got to work or, whatever.
Yeah.
Especially, you're the big boss over there. So,
Yeah, it is. It's challenging because, you spent your entire career missing all these things. And because music was a big part of my life, I spent a lot of my time not being able to see the bands that I wanted to see. And finally, I get to a point where it's like, I'm as, somewhat successful in that I can pick and choose the bands that I get to go see now. So the ones that I missed maybe in my younger years, I'm making up for it now. And some of those bigger bands that are on their last tour, I'm making sure that I'm trying to see them. Or if I'm a fan of another certain band that I desperately want to see, I'm going to try to go see them. I saw Iggy Pop up the street last year. I never thought I'd see Iggy Pop, but he was literally less than a mile away, and it was a Thursday night. And I'm like, I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna go. Like,
that's
I'm
awesome.
going.
I love Iggy. Iggy's like one of the coolest guys ever. We've been lucky enough to work with him once. We did a soundtrack for one of the Freddy's Dead things, and he did an original song there, which was really cool. And we used to record a lot down at Criteria Studios in Miami, which you know as well.
Yeah.
Buddy Trevor down there, and Iggy was living in Miami, and we were in the studio once, and he had just moved down there. And so Trevor walks in, who's runs the studio there. He said, "Hey, Iggy Pop's wants to take a look at the studio. You guys mind if he comes in?" We're like, "Mind, Iggy Pop, please."
Yeah.
So he came in and was so cool, like such a really great down to earth guy, and he came in a few times over the times we were down there, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, good guy. He actually ended up on a 6 Feet Under record, believe it or not, doing like some sort of cameo phone call thing or something. But that's awesome. That's cool. Awesome to see. At least you're in Chicago, where pretty much everybody plays too, so that helps.
Yeah, I mean, we have, from where I'm at right now, where the restaurant's located, we have 2 or 3 venues that are in walking distance, and I know another one being built in the next year or so that's going to be a little bit smaller, 3,000 to 6,000 seats. So that will bring, I think it'll attract a lot more bands that cannot fill like the major stadiums that are also here as well. So that'll bring, I think, a whole new, maybe not genre of music, but a whole new audience or, level of, I guess, music to the area, which is I'm encouraging. I love it. So
it's always good. That's always good. So I got to talk to you a little bit about the restaurant. Your new restaurant ever, Michelin star restaurant, and unbelievable experience. I've had the amazing honor to be there a couple of times, and it's such a unique thing. Like when you think of going to restaurants and stuff, it's there. Most of them are just you go, you sit down, you have dinner, and that's the extent of things. But when you go to Ever, it's like an entire experience where it just not only is the food completely insane, just the service and the meticulous way everything is done and the artfulness of the plates and just the way the restaurant's laid out. I mean, there's a lot going on there. Like, it's an incredible experience. That's a lot of stuff. Like, how did you figure this all out and make all of this stuff happen and make it work so seamlessly?
Well, I don't know if I've ever figured it out. I think every day we're still trying to figure it out. It's about surrounding ourselves with the great people that make these things happen every single day. And it is exactly what you said. It's an experience. We wanted the guests to walk in the front door, and that's the moment they step out of their car is kind of where their experience starts, because the moment they get into the restaurant, we want them to kind of forget everything that they, if they're having a bad day or, traffic was bad getting to the restaurant or whatever. We're trying to get them to a place where we have full control over you. And, what allows us to do that is that kind of like that unwinding moment that you walk through the restaurant before you actually get seated. You know, the idea is to get them to relax as quickly as possible, to forget about the things that was going on during the day, so they can really enjoy the experience and enjoy the restaurant for what it is. And one of those ways is to kind of take away any decision making for them, and that be the food that they're going to eat that night, the what they're going to drink that night. You know, really they only have one decision to make is, are they going to do the wine pairings or not? Everything else is kind of in our hands. You know, if they want something else to drink, sure, but everything else is in our hands. We're going to tell them what to eat, when to eat it, and you know, we
there's no
basically
menu there.
experience.
You just you go in with the types of food that you eat, and then you just create stuff. It's almost to equate it to music. Like like a menu like you have is almost like an album of songs, right? And you
Right.
have different things that work really well. Do you keep certain things in the menu that like your greatest hits, or are you constantly just coming up with new things?
No, we're constantly evolving. Like you said, we get the opportunity to kind of produce an album, if you will, every 3 months, 4 times a year. We get the opportunity to tell a story through the product that we're serving, what the dishes that we're making, and it really showcases the time and place, and it can really evoke a lot of emotions through, you know, a dish and how a certain dishes come to play onto the menu through like what is going on in somebody's life. You know, if I have my chef de cuisine make a dish, he's going to come at it. Maybe he's angry for the last 3 months, and he's put in a lot of things in it. I mean, it's total emotion driven, just like music, I think would be. You know, you're writing a song and you're reflecting on things, a certain time, maybe past, maybe present, and those make their way onto the record. And same thing with the food. We're trying to tell a story as well with the things that are in season, and you know how we're going to handle and cook certain things. Maybe the piece of fish, you're feeling very happy and joyful, and so maybe you want to keep the piece of fish raw, or it's just delicately cooked. But maybe other times you're like, not really feeling it. I want to fucking grill this piece of fish, and I want really, really dark flavors, and we can achieve that too.
Yeah, I find it very similar. Just talk again. Having so many friends who are chefs, I find it very similar to musicians, where both of you are creating art. They're creating music. You're creating food. It's very much art. It's very creative, and I think the process is very similar to making a song to making a dish or making a whole meal there. And I was lucky enough to host your book signing at Book Soup in LA, which was a lot of fun and really cool. And by the way, all those boxes you see in the background, those are all the book Fireproof. Please
Yeah.
make sure those boxes get lower and lower and lower. So
Oh
they
yeah,
won't be
they are.
there. Good. Yeah. No, I know it's doing really well. It's a phenomenal book. But I asked you a question, which I found really interesting. I just kind of thought of it at the moment. But if you talk to any band, Metallica, Iron Maiden, whoever, who do you make music for? They make music for themselves. They don't care about anybody else. They don't listen to
Yep.
critics, managers, spouses, none of it. They make it for themselves. And I asked you, is it the same way for you for making food? And
Same
it
thing.
is, right?
100% the same thing. Like I cook for myself only, and that comes from a place of confidence, doing it for so many years that I have to be extremely happy with the end result before I'm able to pass that on to somebody else, meaning the guest. I certainly couldn't put a dish on the menu that I felt was just okay or almost there. We're going to continue to tweak it, and maybe it'll eventually get there. I couldn't do that. It's not in my best interest. And I would feel this as a band member, or a guitarist or a bassist or a drummer, like you're not going to half-ass your way through something that you're okay with. Yeah, let's put it on the let's put it onto the record. It's okay. um, we're trying to make hits. We're trying to make every single dish a hit, and sometimes they're not. A lot of times they're not. But that's the beauty of it being a full tasting menu. It does have its ebbs and flows and up and downs, and just like a record does, and it's there to tell a story.
Yeah, that's what I was. I've only been there twice, so and every piece of food and everything I've had there's been incredible. But it is like an album, like and there or a concert even where you like said waves or like there'll be a fast song, there'll be a slower something
Yeah,
tempo, and it takes you on a little roller coaster ride, and that's really exactly the way it is at Ever. It's the same feelings you have listening to a great record and having a meal there are so similar.
absolutely right. Absolutely right.
All right, so this is a difficult one. I'm going to put you on the spot, and people do this to me all the time. So I like to spread the fear and terrifyingness of this. Favorite concert of all time?
Fuck.
You can name a couple because
Okay.
I can't name
Um,
one. You can name a couple.
so I'm gonna just name recently. Nine Inch Nails was here, meaning 2 weeks ago, and what an incredible show that was. Um, if you haven't seen this tour of Peel It Back, it is a phenomenal show musically, um, artistry, visually. It's I mean, he's at his peak, and it's pretty amazing. And I've seen him many, many times, and I've always admired the meticulousness of every single note, every single moment that he has is like so choreographed and so well, like that. I don't know, even though it's so well, just like
Put
on
together.
point,
Yeah,
put
yeah, 100.
together on point. Like there's, you know, precision there, and I that was one of my favorite concerts recently. I take myself back to 16 years old when I first saw Guar.
Yeah,
Like I came
awesome.
home and my mother was like, "What the what?" I mean, I had to be up front. I had to be in the blood, and that was incredible. And then, of course, Danzig. I've seen Danzig so many times. I can't not mention him because one of my highlights when I was younger was crowd surfing and actually getting the high five Glenn from front stage. It was pretty memorable. But you say those stories and people are like, "Oh yeah, sure, whatever. I'm sure you did," but
No, that's
it
awesome.
did. It did.
Have you ever had him in any of your restaurants?
So ironically, we've had the opportunity to hang out with Glenn himself on his tour bus. Backstage is a number of shows, and we've had a very close opportunity to have him at the restaurant. He was committed. Last time he was in Chicago, we did an entire like dessert based around the skull. It was all spray painted red and out of all edible chocolate, and we had a whole dessert geared around the Danzig skull. And right at the last moment, they had to cancel. Their drum riser was stuck somewhere like 3 hours away, so they had to stay there because they still had to do sound check. They weren't able to get back, so that kind of messed up some things. But I've had a private dinner with Glenn at one of his favorite restaurants in LA, where it was myself and two of my cooks, two of our dear friends, Corey and Shannon, and Glenn. They shut the entire restaurant down. The chef cooked for us. It was 6 of us or 7 of us. And that was like pretty damn special to me.
That's awesome. Are you allowed to say the restaurant?
I don't remember the name of the restaurant. It was a Japanese restaurant. I had been back since. I just don't remember the name of it.
I'll ask Corey. He'll know.
Corey will definitely know.
I'm just
Corey, yeah.
curious. Yeah, Glenn's great. He took out Cannibal Corpse kind of in the days before Cannibal Corpse was hit. He took them out on a tour and could not have been nicer to them. They treated them really well, and they were still pretty young at that point. This is the biggest tour they had done up till then, and he was
Sure.
great. He still, whenever they play LA, he still comes and says hi to those guys, and yeah,
Amazing. Yeah.
good dude, Mr. Danzig, for sure. Did you at least get a picture of the dessert thing that you made for him, and at least got him to take a look at that and said,
Oh yeah,
"Hey, you missed
yeah.
this."
I did. I actually showed it to him on the bus because we went. We canceled the dinner. It was actually on a Sunday, so I had some of my staff come in that were also huge fans of Danzig, and they were incredibly pumped up. But I had taken some pictures of some of the plates and showed it to him that night on the bus, and he was like, next time I'm coming, next time I promise. I get it. Things happen, it's
Yeah.
always it's always a blessing when we're able to get, the musicians into the restaurant. I try to do my best is to reach out to them in a non-creepy way, because it's not a creepy thing. I enjoy having musicians in the restaurant, especially bands that I love. And I love having them there, because for me, like, it's a way for me to say, thank you. You guys give us all this music that we appreciate so much. And we get to enjoy the music anytime we turn on the radio, or anytime we want to put a cassette in, or a record on the spinner. But this is my way of saying thank you. And I love that opportunity to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's so great. And I, as you well know, one of my good friends is Chris Santos, chef.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first met him, he didn't know a lot of the music people. He's just kind of getting into it, and he's a huge fan, obviously. And when he opened Beauty in Essex in Los Angeles, I was, one of the first people there, and introduced him to. I brought a whole bunch of people in over time, and then I would go in there a lot and be like, half the restaurant is just filled with musicians. Like, oh, hey, this used to be my place. But yeah, that's awesome to be able to do that. It's super fun. Well, dude, I cannot thank you enough for doing this. You were awesome. Please, whether you're a fan of chefs or anything, go out and buy his book. It's a phenomenal story. It's really uplifting. It's a really incredible book. And again, kudos to you on that. Fireproof, Curtis Duffy. And thanks again for doing this.
Thank you. Pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Thanks, man. All right. You can't leave yet because we have to upload your audio.